Hi, this is Phil for No ABC Poker, and in this video we're going to talk about how to play mid and underpairs. It's a spot that a lot of people tend to struggle with a lot because they get stuck on the turn and don't really know how to play. And we're going to uncover why that is and how you can fix it. There are three essential steps to mastering the play of mid and underpairs. Step number one is understanding how important the spot actually is. To do this, we're going to look at some high card frequencies and how we hit certain boards. Step number two is understanding your own range. So basically it's about understanding what you currently do on the flop and how you can fix it. And number three is we need to understand how to exploit villain's lines. Therefore we're going to have a quick look at what villain's doing and how we can adapt to it. So generally a typical scenario looks like this. We raise, for example, pocket jacks from the cutoff and button calls. Flop comes down, queen 10x, and hero kind of doesn't know what to do because there's an overcard in the flop. So the first thing I'd like to look at is how often we actually hit these overcards. If you hold pocket kings, there's a 21% chance we're going to hit an ace on the flop. If we hold pocket queens, there's already a 38% chance, and for jacks we're already at 52%. This rises up to 72% for pocket nines. So obviously we're going to actually hit these overcards a lot, and we're not even talking about spots where we hold something like ace 10 for example and hit the queen 10 x flop. So obviously we should understand how we can actually fix this. So usually what happens on the flop is hero bets, villain calls, the turn is some random card, and hero wonders what to do next. So what happened here? The problem is we are basically out of options on the turn. Villain's range at this point is ahead of our hand. The reason for this is simple. Once we bet the flop, villain might have some hands like king jack, jack 9 suited, etc. But most of villain's range is actually going to be something like queen x. He might have some 10x, but on balance, villain's range is going to have a lot of equity against us, and we're out of position, so we have the disadvantage and we can't really do much. The solution for this is actually really simple. It's just check the flop. Let's have a look at what that will do to our hand. So let's consider a new scenario. We still raise from the cutoff, button calls, flop comes down, queen 10-4. Now we check on the flop. Let's presume there's actually the worst case, villain bets, and we call. Now the turn is a 2 again, and hero seems to be in the same spot as before. So you might argue, well, we're just as stuck as before. However, a lot of things have changed significantly. The difference is that villain's range is composed entirely different. Before, after we bet, he had some strong draws, maybe some gut shots, something like ace-jack maybe, or perhaps even ace-king if he slow-played it pre-flop, along with middle pairs and top pairs. The difference now is that he will still have a lot of top pairs. He will also have all those draws, because he's most likely betting something like king-jack, jack-9, and ace-jack on the flop. However, now he has hands like pocket 8s, pocket 6s, maybe even pocket 3s in his range, along with some other random hands like 8-7 suited, 6-5 suited, whatever you call it pre-flop. So overall, if you do the equity, his range is actually a lot weaker. What this led to is that we have a whole new set of ways to exploit villain. So on this turn, we can actually now check call, for example, and continue bluff catching. In fact, what a lot of people are going to do is they're going to polarize the range a lot. You'll see a lot of villains checking behind with a lot of hands like even some weak queen x hands, and they will only bet the top of their range, let's say queen jack, king queen, or ace queen. Therefore, once they keep betting, they usually continue with a lot of their bluffs, and we can actually now check call because the proportion of bluffs is relatively large compared to the value hands in their range. Another alternative is we can donk bet the turn and get thin value against those hands. Most people are not going to believe you that you have a strong hand after you check call the flop. They're going to presume you have some sort of showdown value, but it doesn't really make sense for you to bet now. So you might actually get some thin value from a lot of those 10x hands, and even something like pocket 8s and pocket 7s that would have just folded on the flop. Now, the thin value is kind of a bit of a stretch on this board, so I wouldn't recommend it, but it's against some villains it can definitely make some sense. And of course, scenario number 3 is we check the turn, villain checks behind, and we can then bet the river, and now we will actually get a lot of value from a lot of hands. Once we check call the flop, the turn goes check check, and we bet the river, it will really look to villain as if we had something like ace-jack maybe, or jack-9 ourselves that we decided to play passively. So all in all, you will get a lot more value by playing a passive line on the flop here. However, always consider whenever you're not sure in a spot like this, for example, if you check call the flop, and you're not sure whether to check call again on a turn or to check fold, always consider play it safe. Basically what it means that when you're so unsure is that equities are going to be running very closely. That means it's going to be almost zero whether you check call or you check fold. If it's that close, the check call is close to zero, so you can as well just take the safe line and check fold. All in all, you will still be exploiting most villains just because they have such an unbalanced betting range on the flop. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. If you have any topics you'd like me to discuss, leave a comment as well and I'll make it happen. Thanks.